During the silent era of films, theatres hired musicians to play music to enhance the viewing experience of the audience. The musicians sat in a pit below the screen and played music that fit the mood of what was happening in the movie. In 1877, Thomas Edison invented the phonograph, and for the first time ever, people could record sound, then listen to it later on at another place. To make a recording, a person spoke or sang into a big horn. This horn collected the sound energy and sent it to a needle, which wiggled up and down. As the needle wiggled, it cut a long wavy groove into a record made of soft wax, which spun in a circle underneath the needle. After the wax hardened, you could play the record back by placing the needle at the start of the groove and spinning the record again. This time the needle moved in the grooves and it created the sounds that had been recorded earlier. Unfortunately, the phonograph and the primitive cameras of the time, like the kinetograph and the cinematograph, didn't work with each other in the way Edison desired. It was very difficult to synchronize the different machines to make them work precisely. The issue was that the recorded sounds of the person's voice did not match the movements of their lips seen in the moving pictures. The recording was either too fast or too slow, and they could not get it to work. In the 1920s, a different group of inventors who worked for the telephone company tried to accomplish what Thomas Edison had not been able to do, the bringing together of moving pictures and the recorded sound. The breakthrough was using electricity to play the sounds, just as they had done with the telephone and radio. They used small microphones instead of big horns to collect the sounds, and had amplifiers that could make those sounds louder. With electricity, they made recordings that were loud enough for everyone in the large movie theatre to hear. Electricity aided them in syncing the footage to the sound. When they took their invention to Hollywood, no one wanted to use it. All the studios thought that it was too expensive and argued, in any case, everyone already went to see silent movies, so there was no point investing in it. However, one studio felt differently, the Warner Brothers Company. Warner Brothers had opened their first cinema in Pennsylvania in 1903. Their business model was unusual at the time, as they showed movies that other studios had made instead of just their own. The business was a success, and over many years they built more theatres across the United States, and also began to make their own movies. None of these movies were particularly notable. However, in 1925, when they were looking for ways to make their movies more popular, Sam Warner decided to try sound. When the telephone investors came to Hollywood and demonstrated their new sound movie system, Sam Warner was very interested. However, his brothers were less enthusiastic, so they decided to meet him halfway and chose to keep making silent movies, but to use the new invention to record music to accompany the silent pictures. This replaced expensive live orchestras, which many of the smaller theatres could not afford. The audience could now have the full orchestral experience at a fraction of the cost. The system also meant that Warner Brothers could now control the music that would be played alongside the movie, rather than the musicians. The new sound movies were called Ritaphone Movies, which means the sound of life, but also became known as talkies by the theatre-going public. The first Ritaphone movie, called The Jazz Singer, made in 1927, used a recording of an orchestra to accompany the action on screen, but also recorded the singers' voices for the first time. The Jazz Singer was a big success, and Thomas Edison's dream of combining sound and moving pictures finally came true. The Warner Brothers celebrated their success and planned to make additional Vitaphone movies. When the Vitaphones took off, Hollywood had to relearn everything. Studios needed to train sound engineers and construct soundproof stages. Actors with strange and hard-to-understand voices or accents were fired. Actors needed to learn their lines ahead of production, and audiences could no longer talk during screenings. Hollywood had changed forever.